the ultimate shonen anime tier list. I'll be taking some of the most popular shonen anime and anime that's been serialized in Shonen Jump and adapted and ranking them on a very competitive scale. As for that competitive scale, we got Garbaggio, below mid, mid, above mid.
Alright, so listen.
If I had to define spankable, it would mean something that's so good. The characters are good, the story is good, everything is so good that you damn near can't stop watching it. That is something that's spankable to me. So, and next we have Spankable Plus, which is pretty self-explanatory after I said spankable. I can't stop watching this. This is peak anime. This is peak shonen, peak whatever. I can't stop watching it. So first up to the plate, we got Magi. And while I did enjoy Magi, it was actually something that I dropped a while ago and then picked back up maybe a year ago to finish. I think the story was pretty good for Magi. The characters were all right. And I think the main villain was Judar and he was cool too. I mean, I think it's kind of in the middle zone between above mid and mid. Honestly,
it's mid.
So next up, we got Demon Slayer, and it's a pretty bare bones story. I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily. Demon Slayer is great eye candy, god tier animation. I mean, the characters are pretty good. I wouldn't say it's mid, especially after watching the Tengen fight. That shit made me jump out of my seat. That moment was amazing. So I would, you know, I'm gonna slide this to above mid. It's kind of like, at first season 1, I would say it's mid, but I think it got better, and I really think it does deserve to be above mid. Next up, we got The Promised Neverland, which I did enjoy. I actually watched that all in one night, so you could say I did spank it. I did actually spank The Promised Neverland. So I did like the 3 main characters from this, and the suspense always kind of kept me on my seat in the first season. The second season, I mean, when you skip 3 arcs of an anime, you're bound for failure. So season 1 is definitely above mid. I think it's kind of below spankable. You gotta be good to be spankable, y'all. And season 2 was Garbaggio. You skipped 3 arcs. I mean, what do you want me to say? Honestly, all in all,
it's pretty mid.
Next up, we got JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is one of my top 10 anime, honestly. If we're looking at this from an objective point of view, I need to base it off of every part that has been adapted. So part 1 was garbage. It served its need as far as introducing us to the story. Part 2 was decent, and then the second half of it, I think, is some peak JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Like, that's some of the best JoJo's Bizarre Adventure we have personally. So all in all, I would say it's highly above mid, almost spankable. Part 2. Part 3 is spankable. I don't care what anybody says. I know a lot of people say it's villain of the week type stuff, but honestly, I really did enjoy part 3, the moments it had. Part 3 was heat, bro. Part 4 was spankable as well. Probably the best singular episodes in the series. I wouldn't say it's like the best combined story. It also has the best villain in Yoshikage Kira. And then part 5 was heat. Honestly, as a full part with a story, I think that's the best adapted one so far, like all in all. And part 6, we don't know when we're getting the rest of that. So with that being said, I think JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is definitely spankable. I haven't read the manga yet. Part 7 sounds heat. I mean, it might end up being in spankable plus for me. We'll see, but right now it's spankable. Next up, we got Hunter x Hunter. I did enjoy Hunter x Hunter a lot. This is just a great anime. The main characters are great. And I mean, it's not even the main character. It's the characters around him that really make the show. The main villains, Hisoka, Crollo, and Meruem, were really good. I mean, I gotta give them credit. The villains was villaining. I'm not gonna lie. The only problem I have is Greed Island was not all that. I'm not gonna lie. I really didn't like Greed Island at all. And then the Chimera Ant arc had One Piece type pacing. Those are the only problems I had. Everything else was super fire. But with those problems, I have to say, I mean, it's pretty close. It's up here. But, you know, I think it's at the very front of spankable. I don't think it's quite spankable plus, in my personal opinion. So next up, we got Soul Eater, which has surprisingly some of the best animation for its time. Like, I think it was 2009. Them boys was going crazy in that animation studio. I feel like the main characters were pretty well written. We got to know a lot about them, especially Black Star. I mean, Black Star is goated, bro. The story was pretty good. I don't think the villains were quite memorable in this show, and the OPs did slap hard. I mean, it's above mid for me. I don't think it's quite spankable, but it's definitely a good anime. Next up, we got One Punch Man, which honestly has some pretty great animation. Like, when I look back, the animation for One Punch Man was crazy. I expected more from this. Like, with the hype that it had, I expected a lot more, and it didn't really deliver like I thought it would. It was cool, but it wasn't great. So honestly, I'm gonna have to throw it in that mid category. Next up, we got Attack on Titan. Let's be honest with ourselves here. The anime was great, but last season, it verified how amazing this anime really is. The characters are written beautifully. It has amazing moments. Honestly, Zeke versus the Beast Titan was one of my favorite moments I've ever seen in anime. Also, the Bertold and Reiner reveal was crazy. Like, come on, bro. Like, the reveals are heat in this anime too. With everything that it has, come on, y'all. This is our first Bankable Plus anime. This deserves to be up here. This is fire, and it's only getting more fire. Next up, we have Samurai Champloo, which I think is one of the most underrated anime I've ever seen. At first, the animation starts out a bit wonky, but it gets a lot better as time progresses, in my opinion. The characters are great in the anime, but honestly, I was there for the journey. The journey of Samurai Champloo was amazing. The ending, while it was a little bittersweet, I felt like it ended right, bro. That was one of my favorite endings just because it felt so real. This is definitely spankable. Come on, y'all. I spanked this. This is quite the spankable anime. It deserves to be up here. Next up, we have Sword Art Online. I actually enjoyed Sword Art Online a lot. The first season, honestly, if we were just basing off of that, it would be spankable. 100% spankable. After the first season, I mean, a lot of people didn't, but I actually enjoyed GGO. The villain from that was cool. The whole idea of it was pretty sick. I enjoyed it a lot. Alfheim Online was garbage. It was bad. I felt like it was filler, if we're being honest. I don't think Sword Art Online is mid. I think it's above mid, but it's almost creeping down here based off of Alfheim Online. But I did like the characters and the story was pretty good, so it's above mid. Next up, we got Fairy Tail. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I am very biased. I actually kind of love Fairy Tail. I'm gonna be as objective as possible and be honest. A lot of anime don't get the flack that Fairy Tail gets for having the power of friendship type of thing, because honestly, we see it in everything. I know Fairy Tail does it a little bit more than others, but we see that in everything. I know Fairy Tail makes it a little more obvious than others, but arcs like Tartaros, the Grand Magic Games, they were fire. Like, I was glued to my seat watching Fairy Tail. It's above mid, bro. I give it that. I think it's almost spankable. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did enjoy Fairy Tail a lot. I think it was great, but I'm gonna put it at above mid, objectively speaking. Next up is Death Note. Listen, people, if we were basing Death Note off of the L arc alone, that shit is spankable plus. I don't care. Like, that is one of the best things I've ever watched if we're basing it off the L arc alone. The moment the L arc finishes, though,
it's mid.
I don't care. It's mid. The ending was good. I'll give it that. But after L, it just was so mid. You could see how important L was to the story. The moments in Death Note were insane. The way it made you feel, the way it made you think, the internal mental battle between Light and L was crazy. But that last arc is kind of holding it back. It's definitely spankable. And I would say it's like right here. Next up is Tokyo Ghoul. And Tokyo Ghoul's first season is also some of the best anime I've watched. If we're basing it off that alone, it is quite spankable. However, it didn't end after the first season and it got pretty
mid
to me. I'm not gonna lie. I heard the manga was a lot better and it wasn't adapted that well, but if I'm being honest, I'm basing it off of the entire anime. It's quite mid, yo. Next up is Seven Deadly Sins, which is something that was super spankable at first. First season was great. Second season, I think, was pretty great. The third season is less than garbage, yo. I don't even have a tier for the third season. The third season was so bad, it put me off of watching the fourth season as a whole. So honestly, I don't even know if I can rate this accurately, but I'ma try. And if I do, this shit is below mid. So next up, we got Bleach. And honestly, if you know me, you know Bleach has a special place in my heart. The characters, the character design, the powers, the villains. Aizen is a goated villain, bro. Bleach is like an all-star cast of characters, and personally I think it does have the best characters, like as far as like total in the big three, 100%. The problem comes when all those characters can't be fully developed. You introduce so many good characters like Kisuke, Unohana, Chad, Yoriichi, and so many more, and they all don't feel like we know enough about them. With that being said, I swear I would have put Bleach in the spankable plus category, but I can't. It's right about here as spankable. When that manga gets adapted, it might change though. We'll see depending on what they do. Next up, we got One Piece. Nah, I'm just playing. So I actually haven't finished One Piece. I felt like I needed to add it because it's like the most popular Shonen Jump anime there is. I'm about up to episode 126 or 127, so I've just seen Luffy defeat Crocodile, but I want to really give it a chance. I can't rate something that I don't know everything about. Now, one thing I will say is I don't think it can be Spankable Plus in my opinion. The reason I say that is because it's taken me this long to even be slightly interested in One Piece, and for no other anime have I given that long of a chance for it. One Piece actually hasn't hooked me yet, I'm not gonna lie. So no matter how good it gets, based off of the beginning, I cannot put it in Spankable Plus. I'm sorry. It probably could be high tier Spankable, and I know like as it gets later, it's probably Spankable Plus, but in my personal opinion, as a collective, I cannot put it there. So I'm gonna just leave it here for now. Next up is Black Clover. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. Black Clover is heat. The characters in Black Clover are great, and one of the main things and main reasons I love it so much is because it actually has female characters that are super powerful and it's relevant to the story. I mean, we got Marileona, we got Noelle, we got Char. Those are all top tier fighters in the Black Clover universe. Aside from that, it has great animation, great characters. Honestly, Asa's probably my second favorite MC in Shonen, I'm not gonna lie. The only thing is there's two main problems I have with Black Clover. The first one is the villains in Black Clover are not memorable at all. Honestly, the best villain we've gotten is in the manga, and at the time of this, I mean, honestly, they kind of messed that up. Like, you do see moments where like Luck, Magna, Vanessa, like Zora, like they come out of their shell and they're not just their tropes anymore, but it doesn't happen too often, and I really hate that. With that being said, I do think Black Clover is quite spankable. If I'm being honest, it would be around right here. I spanked Black Clover completely. It's up there, and honestly, it's the best new shonen we have. Next, we got Kuroko's Basketball. Believe it or not, Kuroko's Basketball is actually in my top 10 anime of all time that I've watched, and it might be near top 5. A lot of people call this the Dragon Ball of sports anime, and I don't think that's fair at all. The main difference between that and Dragon Ball is Goku is super overpowered, and Kuroko sucks. He trains hard and he refines his game, which is really nice to see, but if we're being honest, he's not a generation of miracle. Like, he gets shut down a lot over the course of the anime. And if we're talking about moments, which is something that's very important to me, how many good moments do you have, or did you have any amazing moments? And Kuroko definitely did. Kagami's Meteor Jam versus Murasaki Bara was amazing. Kagami versus Aomine was one of the best things I've seen behind a TV screen in my life. With that being said, Kuroko's Basketball has some of my favorite moments in anime. If I'm being honest, it's spankable, highly spankable, and it's about right there. People might be surprised, but it is quite the spankable anime. Next up is Food Wars. Food Wars season 1 and 2 were almost peak anime for me. Like, Food Wars at its beginning, it was heat. Even though I say that, Food Wars did have a slow decline for me around season 3. I think season 4 finished strong, and now I'm actually watching season 5, and it feels like the villain in season 5 is almost unbelievably strong, and I kind of hate that. Food Wars has some great characters. Erina is an amazing character. Soma, I really like Megami. Rio is a great character. Akira, they have a lot of good characters. I wouldn't say it's quite spankable based off of the last 3 seasons. The first 2 seasons were damn near spankable plus, but based off of that, I think it's above mid, and it would probably be like around right here for me. Next up, we got Naruto. Naruto was really good, I'll give it that. The Chunin exams before it got rudely interrupted was one of the best shonen arcs I've seen. The Sasuke retrieval arc was cool. The Pain arc was one of the best shonen anime arcs we've seen. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but the war arc dragged it into the pits of hell for me. The introduction of Madara was crazy to me, but the moment we got introduced to Kaguya, it was below Garbaggio. Naruto does have great characters, but they all kind of got abandoned. Like, I personally enjoyed regular Naruto, like OG Naruto, more than Naruto Shippuden because everybody got love. While it's not spankable plus, Naruto did have some amazing moments, and I feel wrong putting it above mid. So it's gonna go to the very back of spankable. Just know it was almost above mid. So don't feel safe, Naruto fans. It was just above mid. Next up, we got My Hero Academia. There's moments moments of My Hero, I actually remember where I was when I was watching it, which is kind of insane. Like Deku versus Todoroki was some top tier anime. I'll give it that. Deku versus Bakugo was also some top tier anime. I mean, All Might versus Nemu was like a top tier moment. I mean, My Hero has some pretty great moments. No matter how much flack it gets, it has some great moments. Similar to Black Clover, I feel like a lot of the characters in My Hero that go to UA fall into their character trope and they don't get too far out of it. With that being said, I wouldn't say My Hero is quite mid. I'd say it's above mid. If I had to put it in a spot, it would probably be between these two. Hold on, back up. Next up, we got Yu Yu Hakusho. I'm wasting no time. I'm wasting absolutely no time. This is the most spankable thing I've watched. This is spankable plus in my personal opinion. The Dark Tournament arc is the best shonen arc I've ever seen in my life. The dialogue selection for Yusuke is unmatched. His character development. The thing I like about Yusuke is he feels real. He's just a delinquent. He doesn't want to be some great thing, which a lot of shonen anime get caught up in, which isn't a problem, but honestly for me it gets a little bit old. Chapter Black was also a god tier arc. I mean, Toguro and Sense, we are god tier villains, let's be honest. This is one of the only anime where I don't even care about the sub. The voice acting in the dub is god tier. The OP is god tier. Like, if you haven't watched Yu Yu Hakusho, please just, you gotta watch it. Next up, we have Fire Force. I enjoyed season 1 of Fire Force a lot. I think it was quite spankable. Season 2 was below mid for me. I think Fire Force is one of the only shonen anime I've seen that struggled trying to tell a story while also showing fan service. The second season really started off strong for me, and then it just kind of fell, like nosedive type fall, and then it kind of picked back up later. Like at the very end, it picked back up. Fire Force has some great music too. It has some great characters. I'm not gonna say it was mid. I would say it's above mid, but it's probably all the way back here. Next up, we got Jujutsu Kaisen. I hate to say it, but up until the Megami Domain expansion, I really just wasn't feeling Jujutsu Kaisen all the way. It was good and it had some really great moments, but the amount of popularity this anime garnered based off of its quality, I feel like it just doesn't meet up. The main characters are pretty good. I mean, Nobara isn't useless. I feel like I can put it at above mid. I'm not gonna say it's mid. I think right there is a good spot. Next up, we got the Fate series. One thing I will say about Fate is the animation is spankable plus. I don't think I've ever said that about anything, but it's spankable 3 times. The story for Fate is good. I think the characters are pretty good. The idea of the Holy Grail War is just sick to me. I think Fate has some of the best conversations in anime. Honestly, sometimes you don't even realize that Gilgamesh and Kiri been there for 9 minutes talking and you've just been listening to them. And then all the kings meeting with each other and Gilgamesh pouring up a drink before the final battle and them just talking. That was so sick to me. That was so clean. Fate was amazing. Had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. This thing was spankable. I would put it maybe like right over here. It was quite spankable. Next up, we got Slime. I'm not saying that full name. The characters are good. Personally, I think Rimuru is a great character and shows a lot of character development in season 2. So much so that I was really surprised at some of the things he did in season 2. I won't say too much. So as far as what I'm seeing, I definitely think the stock for season 2 is rising. Honestly, I would say Slime is like right about here for me. I think Slime is above mid. I don't think it's mid at all. I don't think it's quite spankable, but this is a really good anime. And honestly, depending on how season 2 goes, it could go up to that spankable category. Last, we got Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Like Yu Yu Hakusho, I'm wasting no time. I mean, it's not my favorite anime, but this is literally the best anime I've ever seen. The fights are great, the characters are great, the villains are great. It just never has a hiccup. I can't say that about anything else. And I think Roy Mustang's moment in Full Metal was like one of the first, if not the first anime moment that I looked at and I was like, okay, I gotta start watching more anime. Like, this is it. I need to start watching more. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, leave a sub for your boy. I appreciate that a lot. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.